Hey everyone, I wanted to go over the new and exciting news that we got for Hunter Rise Sunbreak, which is now available on both the Nintendo Switch and on PC. And one of the things that I've seen a lot of discussion of is regarding which followers you want to choose to bring with you into a specific hunt. We know that we have follower requests now available to us, where you can actually choose 2 followers to come along with you on any hunt. These hunts are extremely preferable if you choose to play single player and don't necessarily want to mess with people online. And there's a lot of discussion regarding which followers are kind of like the best ones to bring along with you. So in this video, I'm going to try to explain to you guys why Hinoa and Minoto dual hunting horn supremacy is definitely the way to go. But before I get into that just yet, I do want to quickly mention just all of the followers that you can have with you and why I think most of them are just not necessarily all that helpful. Now, their movement techniques are probably the best defining factors for each one. Some are offensive, some are defensive, some are supportive, and others are just balanced. On top of that, you have attack frequency and healing frequency, and healing really boils down to just how much support you actually want to have. And attack, while important, is not necessarily all that helpful if they're not actually gaining aggro, or alternatively stunning or KOing a monster enough times that they give you an open window, just enough time for you to actually be the main damage dealer and be able to get these quests done with ease. Now, a quick caveat here is that we still don't necessarily have afflicted solo hunts, essentially that where you can bring your followers and supporters with you. So that is probably going to be something that once we start getting those in the future, presumably, I would think Capcom is going to want to do that. They give us afflicted hunts where you can actually do them in single player with these followers. Once they provide us with that, probably the parameters are going to change and some of these followers are going to become a little bit more viable. But for right now, most of the attack and focus ones seems to be kind of pointless. I'm mostly speaking about Rondine, Fugen, Master Usushi, Jay, and Gallias. I don't necessarily find any help with them at all. Sometimes they flash, sometimes they'll put a bomb. They all mount occasionally, but ultimately I don't necessarily find a lot of help with them. There is a mid-tier where I would actually put in both Fiorane and Arlo. I think they're pretty decent for what they do, but ultimately are kind of like outclassed by the other 3 that I'm going to mention, which happen to be Hinoa, Minoto, and Luchika. Now, Luchika, I think is in her own category because she is an offensive supporter, but it basically boils down that she's never going to heal you no matter what. But her attacking damage output is extremely over the top, especially if you choose to use her as a heavy bowgun user. She dishes out massive damage, she puts out tons of stickies, she gets tons of KOs, she stuns, she does everything offensively that you would want out of a supporter. But the issue is that, again, you don't necessarily get any support from her whatsoever. I think there's a few clips on Twitter that people have been posting that she tosses bombs at you whenever you're stunned or stuff like that. Whenever you're Palico and your Palamute will not get to you, she just throws bombs at you and then basically just lets you deal with the aftermath on your own, which is funny, but not necessarily helpful in an actual hunt. So this is where Hinoa and Minoto come in. Minoto is a defensive type that attacks as required, so not necessarily all that much, but her healing is frequent. She has both a lance and a hunting horn. Hinoa is a supporter, her attack is infrequent, and her healing is frequent. She has a hunting horn, light bow gun, and a bow. And to be quite honest, using anything other than hunting horn is completely pointless because their weapons and damage output is not necessarily all that great. So they are extremely good at both supporting, and that is the role that I usually use them with. Pretty much it boils down that in every hunt that I bring them along, they are constantly supporting me and they let me focus on me being the complete 100% damage dealer of the hunt, with the understanding that they are going to get so much KO damage, so much stagger, just so much flinching on the monsters that it just gives me more than enough openings for me to be able to just devastate the monster's health and be able to take care of a hunt extremely fast. This is also supported by the fact that I have the 2 damaged dogs. I'm probably going to talk about that in the next video. I think a lot of people are making a lot of noise when it comes to just how good these Palamutes are, so we're going to be talking about that in the future. But for now, I think Hinoa and Minoto are the best supporters, and for 2 specific reasons. First, the hunting horn, like I mentioned before, gives you tons of KO, tons of stagger, tons of flinching. But then on top of that, you have obviously the songs. Now the songs here are extremely helpful. You have divine protection, stamina use reduction, attack and defense up, health regeneration, sonic barrier, and infernal melody. So first and foremost, Divine Protection is a 40-second buff that gives you 50% damage reduction with a 25% proc rate. This is basically the equivalent of Divine Blessing 3. But the interesting thing is that it actually stacks with Divine Blessing, but only where one effect is applied if that proc chance is actually met. So what the game actually does is that if you're going to get hit by a monster, and let's say it's going to take 90% of your health, you're not just going to lose 45% of your health. But the interesting thing here is that, like I said, it has a 25% proc rate, but only one at a time. So instead of you getting a 50% proc, every single chance you get hit is going to do two separate rolls. One for 25%. If it triggers, then the second roll doesn't necessarily happen. If it doesn't necessarily trigger, then the second roll for your Divine Blessing, whether you have it from your talisman or your armor, whatever you might have it, then it triggers from that, and then you have that 50% damage reduction for whatever that attack was. And you're going to have that every 40 seconds continually being stacked by their songs. You also have Stamina Reduction, which is the equivalent of Latent Power 3. It's a 50% reduction on stamina loss that will also stack with Latent Power, Constitution, Dango Fighter, and Bubbly Dance. So if you're using like dual blades and you're already using like Bubbly Dance or Dango Fighter or Constitution, you're just going to be swimming on free stamina. So that is extremely helpful for those users. The attack and defense up song is a 60-second song that gives you 10% additional raw attack and 10% additional raw defense, but it does not stack with other songs of that nature. So you just get a flat 10% boost on both attack and defense. Health regeneration is going to give you HP for 30 seconds, pretty much every single second, and it does stack up with recovery up skill. So if you have that skill available to you, you're going to get even more health, automatically every single second. Now another attack booster that is going to get applied to you is Infernal Melody. This is a 20-second buff for 20% additional raw attack, but it does not stack up with attack up songs. Instead, it basically just replaces the original one. So you're just going to get free extra 20% more damage by raw attack standards. Now technically the weakest song that they do play is Sonic Barrier, and the reason for that is because the proc rate essentially is going to be extremely lower because it only has a 4-second duration. But this one, if it does trigger, is extremely massive. You basically gain a barrier that negates getting flinched, knocked back by attacks, getting stunned from roars, wind pressure, and tremors, but just once. But again, the thing is that it only lasts for 4 seconds, so it's extremely situational. If you happen to just get, flinched or knocked down or stunned or wind pressure or even tremored, and within those 4 seconds, you're not gonna get it because you're just automatically protected from it. But the fact that the duration is so extremely short because it's just such a powerful song is the only real drawback, which is why I only kind of put this song as like an extra benefit in this list, but not necessarily all that beneficial. So ultimately you have 5 songs and one extremely situational one that you're constantly going to be getting. They're going to continually keep flinching the monsters. They're going to get tons of knockdowns. They're going to get KOs. They're going to get staggers. You're going to get just constant damage output, especially if you're focusing on just the monsters' weak parts and breakable areas, with both of these two actually out in the hunt with you. Not only that, but of course, like I mentioned before, they're going to occasionally mount a monster. They're going to be supportive in that regard. I've not necessarily seen them do flash bombs or anything like that. I've not seen them do traps. I've not seen that either. But they do occasionally do heal you. They're going to constantly going to toss out heals on top of the health regen that I mentioned before from the songs. So you're going to also have that in the supportive role as well. So I found both Hinoa and Minoto extremely supportive. If you're just focusing on trying to clean out all your quests and have it the easiest way possible, I think bringing those two along is going to take you a long way to just clear out those quests that you need to do and get it done and over with. And hopefully heading into the future, if Capcom does decide to give us afflicted monster hunts with single player follower supporters, we're just gonna have to wait and see how helpful are they gonna be going forward, because again, we do remember that the resistances for afflicted monsters when it comes to KO, flinching, knockdowns and stuff like that is gonna be a little bit higher, so they're probably not gonna be able to trigger it all that much. So it's just gonna be on you to have to dish out all the damage and avoid all the monstrous attacks, which is something that is a real pain, especially if you're playing a single player. But that's about all the details that I wanted to go over. This is why I think these are the two best supporters. Hopefully you guys enjoy them if you haven't necessarily been giving them a chance. But do let me know in the comments what supporters you are using in your follower quest. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.